Hi, my name is Victoria Findlay Wolfe and I'm a Sizzix designer. Today I want to show you a variation using my wave die to make this quilt. Using just one die, I like to be able to look at my other shapes, my dies, to see what else can I do with them. So today we're going to start with the wave die, and all of the pieces for this quilt are done with this one die. All right, so we're going to start by just cutting out the pieces that we need. Okay, so I have my wave pieces. And now, by laying my fabric back on my die, I've measured in 1/4 inch, and I've laid my fabric across there, and I've taken my Sharpie and I've drawn a line directly on my die. That way I can look at this and I can come back, lay my fabrics on here. I'm going to take 2 pieces. I'm only using 2 pieces when I roll this back through because I'm going to then lay this fabric underneath the die. You don't want to do more than 2 layers when you do that. And I'm going to roll this back through my machine and make that second shape that I want. Okay, so if we look at this quilt up here, after cutting out that second shape, just by making that one mark on my die, I'm now left with the column, or this sort of hourglass shape, that will make that portion of the quilt. This is the standard wave piece that we started with. That's going to go there. We have these little guys, the melon shape that we just cut out of the wave shape, which is going to go in the middle. And back to our wave shape that we originally started with. So as I cut more and more of my shapes, I've made everything from that one shape. So I will sew these together all in a long row this way across. So I'm just doing these short curves to piece those all together, and then I'll sew the full rows together. Okay, so now we have our layout, we have our pieces cut out. Let me show you how to sew one of the curves together, okay? So we start by getting our centers. Finger press is always the best thing to do, nice and quick. Bring my right sides together. I'm going to pin that center. We pin that center because we want to keep our mirror image of our curves together. And then we're going to come to the end. And you're going to have a slight little dog ear. Dog ear meaning there's going to be an overlap on the curve that you've sewn, cut underneath here. Is going to have to overlap a 1/4 inch on the end where your stitching line is going to be. Okay, so you're going to have that little flap sticking over the end there. And same thing on the opposite end. Have my 3 pins. That's the floppy part of my curve. That part's always on the top. I call it the flatter piece is more, I call it my belly, so my floppy top, right? And you may notice that when I'm sewing, I sew a little bit at a time and readjust my fabrics. So don't rush it, just keep your raw edges together. You sew a little bit and readjust if you need to. Okay, so there's the curve sewn in. I'm always going to look at the back and see which way that's laying. I like to give that a good press to the outside, especially on the small melons. Okay, so that's how you do the curves. That's the same curve you're going to be doing on each of the rest of these pieces when you lay your quilt out. It's all the same curve, finding your centers, putting in a pin, pinning your ends, and letting the machine take the fabric through. So that's the wave variation. Enjoy the curves. Don't forget to play.